There are stories that stretch across deserts, linger in the wind, and echo in the quiet steps of pilgrims walking through modern-day Saudi Arabia. But few stories carry the emotional weight and cinematic power of the life of Prophet Isma'eel alayhi salam. This is not a tale told only in ancient pages. It is a living narrative, woven into the daily footsteps of millions who pass through Makkah today. Every grain of sand, every mountain ridge, every whisper around the Kaaba clings to fragments of his journey. His life was a symphony of faith, sacrifice, survival, and destiny. And tonight, in this documentary, we unfold his story not as distant history, but as a dramatic, pulse-moving journey of a young boy whose life shaped the spiritual map of the world. This is the cinematic retelling of a child left in a barren desert, a mother whose courage rewrote human endurance, and a man whose lineage would change the fate of nations. This is the life of Prophet Isma'eel, son of Prophet Ibrahim, a story still alive, still breathing, and still echoing to the heart of Makkah. Before the desert became holy and before Makkah became a city, it was nothing more than a silent valley, a hollow stretch of earth with no water, no life, and no travelers passing by. Yet this is exactly where Prophet Ibrahim, under the command of Allah, brought Hajar and her infant son Isma'eel. The scene is one of deep emotional tension. A father torn between obedience and affection, a mother unaware of the divine plan, and a child whose future will become legendary. As the three approached the valley, Hajar may have felt confusion rise in her heart. Why here? Why this lifeless place? But Ibrahim's silence held a secret. He was fulfilling a divine instruction. When he turned away, Hajar's voice broke the air, asking if this was a command of Allah. And when he nodded, everything shifted. Her fear transformed into strength. Her confusion became clarity. With faith as her only companion, she accepted her destiny. This was not abandonment. It was the beginning of a miracle story. The desert watches quietly as the first human footsteps of Isma'eel settle into its sand, marking the start of a saga that would shape the heart of Arabia forever. The early days in the barren valley tested Hajar's resilience. She was alone, with nothing but a small bag of dates and a water skin that drained drop by drop beneath the scorching Arabian sun. The silence was heavy, the heat relentless, and baby Isma'eel cried in hunger and thirst. Yet the mother who stood there was no ordinary woman. With unwavering determination, she treated every moment as a challenge she was destined to overcome. Hajar shielded her child, fed him whatever remained, and whispered prayers as the desert wind swirled around her. Each night, the valley grew colder, but her faith burned brighter. She tried to stretch the provisions, but eventually the dates finished and the water skin ran dry. Her heart began to beat faster as she watched her baby grow weak. Panic tried to claw its way into her chest, but Hajar refused to surrender. She knew Allah had not brought her here to perish. Something inside her kept pushing, a force that made her move, made her search, made her fight. And it was this force that would soon transform the barren desert into the source of one of history's greatest miracles. When baby Isma'eel's cries grew faint, Hajar sprang into action. She ran toward a nearby hill. Safa, her feet moved fast across the burning sand, her heart pounding like the desert drum. She reached the top, scanning desperately for help, for travelers, for water, for anything. But the horizon answered only with silence. Not willing to give up, she rushed down the hill and ran toward another Marwa. Again, no help, yet she kept going. Safa to Marwa, Marwa to Safa. 7 times she raced between the two hills, driven by the love of a mother and the strength of her faith. The sound of her footsteps filled the valley, and her breath mingled with the desert wind. Today, millions retrace her exact steps during Hajj and Umrah, honoring the determination that shaped those hills. What looked like desperation was actually destiny revealing itself through motion. As she completed the 7th run, exhausted and trembling, she knew she had done everything she could. Now, she surrendered the rest to Allah. And it was in the surrender, at the very edge of human strength, that the miracle finally appeared. In the silence after her 7th run, Hajar returned to baby Isma'eel, whose heels brushed against the ground as he kicked in distress. And then it happened. A sudden burst. A gush of water erupted from beneath the desert floor. Crystal clear, cold, and overflowing. Hajar's eyes widened as she rushed forward, scooping the precious water into her hands and guiding it toward her thirsty son. It was a miraculous spring of Zamzam, a source that would never dry and would quench the thirst of billions throughout history. She created a small basin around the water, calling out, Zamzam, meaning stop flowing, not to prevent the miracle but to contain its blessing. The valley that once echoed with emptiness now pulsed with life. Birds circled overhead, signaling the arrival of water, inviting caravans from different regions. Life had begun in a place previously defined by death. The birth of Zamzam transformed the forsaken valley into the center of Arabia's future and the foundation of a civilization. This miracle marked the true beginning of Isma'eel's legacy, for from the water of Zamzam grew the city of Makkah itself. As the Zamzam spring continued to flow, its presence caught the attention of a passing tribe known as the Jurum. Skilled travelers familiar with the desert's harshness, they were shocked to find water in a valley they once knew as barren. They followed the birds circling above until they discovered Hajar and her infant. The tribe sought permission to camp near the water, recognizing it as a rare blessing. Hajar agreed, but with dignity and wisdom. She set clear terms. The water belonged to her and her son. This moment marks one of the first displays of her remarkable leadership. The Jurum respected her strength and settled peacefully. Over time, they helped build tents, establish paths, introduce language, and form a growing community. Young Isma'eel began to grow among them, learning their dialect, their skills, and their way of life. He learned to speak fluently, shoot arrows with precision, and master the desert's secrets. The once lonely valley now buzzed with the rhythm of life. And in its center stood Isma'eel, a child blessed by Allah and raised in an environment that shaped him into a man of honor, strength, and destiny. Years passed, and Isma'eel transformed from a vulnerable baby into a strong young man. His character was shaped by the desert, tough, disciplined, and sincere. He learned how to navigate dunes, track animals, survive the heat, and protect his community. He became known among the Jurum for his humility and trustworthiness. His presence drew respect, not because of his lineage, but because of his quiet strength. Meanwhile, far away, Prophet Ibrahim's heart often drifted back to the valley where he had left his family. The divine command had kept him patient. But a father's love can never rest. One day, Allah granted him permission to return. As Ibrahim approached the valley of Makkah, he saw not a barren land but a thriving settlement, a sign that Allah's promise was unfolding perfectly. When father and son finally met, their embrace resonated across the valley. The reunion was filled with warmth, pride, and gratitude. This was not simply a father meeting his child. It was a prophet meeting the boy whose life was part of a divine plan that neither of them fully understood yet. Ibrahim, now standing in a transformed valley, observed Isma'eel with admiration. The desert had molded him into a resilient young man, one who carried both strength and wisdom. Their reunion quickly became a conversation of gratitude for Zamzam, gratitude for survival, gratitude for Allah's protection. But Ibrahim's return was not only for the joy of reunion. Allah had prepared the next step of their journey. Together, father and son will fulfill a command destined to reshape the world. The Kaaba, the sacred house, needed to be rebuilt. The original foundation, erected by Prophet Adam, had been lost to time. Now it was time to raise its structure once again. The command was monumental, and the responsibility enormous, but Isma'eel accepted without hesitation. He knew he was not just building a structure. He was helping to create the spiritual heart of humanity. With humility, he rolled up his garments and prepared for the task. In that moment, father and son stood side by side, ready to build a structure that would unite generations long after their footsteps vanished from the desert sand. The construction of the Kaaba began with no grand tools, no architectural plans, and no skilled workforce. Just a father, a son, and an unwavering commitment to Allah. Prophet Ibrahim carried stones, sometimes lifting them with trembling arms due to age, while Isma'eel hauled larger rocks with youthful strength. The process was slow, deliberate, and deeply spiritual. As they built each layer, they recited their heartfelt prayer. Our Lord, accept this from us. This wasn't merely construction. It was worship with every motion. Travelers passing by watched in awe, sensing something extraordinary unfolding in the valley. The structure slowly rose, simple yet majestic. As the walls grew higher, Ibrahim asked his son to bring him a special stone, a stone unlike any other. It was a black stone, sent from the heavens, luminous in its purity. They placed it gently at the corner, marking the Kaaba's most iconic spot. With every stone set in place, the valley transformed further, not just physically but spiritually. Makkah was no longer just a settlement. It was becoming the beating heart of faith, the greatest spiritual landmark humanity would come to know. When the Kaaba stood complete, something shifted in the valley. The air felt different, lighter, purer, charged with divine purpose. The structure wasn't grand in size, but its significance was monumental. Ibrahim and Isma'eel stood before it, exhausted yet overwhelmed with a profound sense of completion. Then came the next command, to call people pilgrimage. Ibrahim wondered how his voice, alone in a silent desert, could reach the corners of the earth. But Allah told him to call, and that he would deliver the message. So, from a high point near the Kaaba, Prophet Ibrahim raised his hands and proclaimed the call of Hajj. And miraculously, souls across time and place heard it. People from distant lands felt a pull toward the sacred valley, a command that still resonates today, centuries later, as millions respond to that same call every year. The moment solidified Isma'eel's connection to the Kaaba, for its story had become intertwined with his own. The valley that once held the tears of a thirsty child was now destined to hold the footsteps of nations. As Isma'eel grew into adulthood, he established himself as a leader among the Jurhum tribe. His reputation for honesty became so firmly rooted that people sought him out to settle disputes. His character was a reflection of his upbringing, shaped by faith, tempered by hardship, and polished by constant gratitude. His archery skills became legendary, and he often helped the tribe hunt and protect their territory. His marriage to a woman from Jurhum further strengthened his bond to the community. Yet his father's visits continued. From faraway lands, Ibrahim would journey back to Makkah, not just to see his son, but continue nurturing the divine legacy unfolding through him. During one of these visits, Prophet Ibrahim found Isma'eel's home, but not Isma'eel himself. He instead met his son's wife, who complained bitterly about life's hardships. Ibrahim left a message for Isma'eel to change the threshold of his door. Isma'eel understood immediately. It was a subtle instruction urging him to part ways with her. This moment underscores obedience not only to Allah but to the wisdom of his father, a wisdom that continued to guide his path. Life in Makkah continued to flourish. Under Isma'eel's guidance, the settlement grew into a community defined by unity, strength, and spirituality. He taught his people to worship Allah alone, reminding them of the blessings upon their land. His leadership was gentle, grounded, and deeply principled. But the most dramatic moment of his life, the test that would define his legacy forever, was yet to come. One night, Prophet Ibrahim saw a dream. In it, he was sacrificing his beloved son. For prophets, dreams are revelations. The message was clear, powerful, and deeply heartbreaking. Ibrahim struggled with the weight of the command, but his faith did not waver. The next morning, he embarked on a journey back to Makkah, the toughest journey he'd ever walked. When he arrived, he took Isma'eel aside. Their conversation remains one of the most emotionally charged exchanges in human history. It wasn't a command delivered with force, but with honesty, and it wasn't met with resistance, but with trust. When Prophet Ibrahim told Isma'eel about the dream, the divine instruction to sacrifice him, there was a moment where time felt suspended. Any ordinary young man would tremble, question, or cry out. But Isma'eel responded with calm acceptance, saying, "Father, do as you are commanded. You will find me patient if Allah wills." His words were steady, filled with unwavering faith, showcasing submission to Allah that resonated through the ages. The scene was both heartbreaking and profoundly beautiful. A father ready to give up his beloved son for God, and a son ready to give up his life for God. Together, they walked toward the place of sacrifice. The desert was quiet, the wind slow, the air heavy. Even the mountains seemed to watch. Isma'eel carried the wood, while Ibrahim walked with a heavy heart. Yet both of them moved with purpose. This was not a walk soaked in tragedy. It was drenched in faith, a level of surrender unmatched in history. Their footsteps became the foundation of an annual global ritual still performed today. At the place of sacrifice, now near Mina in Saudi Arabia, the tension reached its peak. Ibrahim laid his son down, his hands trembling, his heart breaking, yet his faith stronger than ever. Isma'eel remained calm, steady, and accepting. This was the ultimate test, one that pushed the limits of human emotion. As Ibrahim raised the blade, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then came the divine intervention. Allah called out to him, announcing that the test had been fulfilled. In a moment of unimaginable relief, a ram was sent from the heavens to replace Isma'eel. The blade never touched him. Tears streamed from Ibrahim's eyes. Not of sorrow, but overwhelming gratitude. The sacrifice became a symbol, commemorated every year during Eid al-Adha, as millions around the world honor the obedience of father and son. The moment did not create distance between them. Instead, it deepened their bond, solidifying their place as pillars of faith whose story will be retold until the end of time. After the monumental test, Prophet Isma'eel's life continued to be one of service, leadership, and deep spirituality. He was widely known for his devotion to prayer, calling his community to worship with sincerity. The Kaaba became the center of their gatherings, a space where hearts found peace and where the community grew stronger. Isma'eel's commitment to maintaining the sacred structure never wavered. He repaired it when needed, cleaned its surroundings, and ensured it remained a place of purity. His humility made him approachable, while his wisdom made him respected. Even those outside Makkah began to hear the righteous leader, whose lineage carried blessings. The desert, once silent, now thrived with activity. Traders, travelers, and families finding a new home in the valley. Prophet Isma'eel's presence turned Makkah into a beacon of hope, stability, and spiritual purpose. Under his guidance, the city evolved from a lonely desert into a flourishing oasis of culture and faith. Prophet Isma'eel also became a master of communication, known for his eloquence and truthfulness. The tribe trusted his word, and visitors sought his counsel. His leadership style was built on fairness, never allowing personal bias to overshadow justice. He actively resolved conflicts within the tribe, using wisdom passed down from his father. Isma'eel's skill with the bow earned him admiration, but it was his moral strength that defined him. Children followed him to learn archery. Elders approached him for advice. Women respected him for his compassion. Men admired him for his courage. His personality created a sense of unity within the community, fostering trust and loyalty. The valley grew busier each year as more travelers arrived, drawn by the stability he nurtured. And while life seemed peaceful, Prophet Isma'eel always reminded his people of the importance of gratitude, especially for Zamzam, the miraculous spring that remained their lifeline. His teachings echoed across generations, anchoring Makkah in values that would eventually become the foundation of the Islamic world. The legacy of the sacrifice continued to shape Isma'eel's character. Having lived through the test that defined faith itself, he walked through life with a level of tranquility that was almost unmatched. He understood the temporary nature of hardship, the value of patience, and the sweetness that follows submission to Allah. Many people from surrounding regions traveled to Makkah just to hear him speak. His words carried a calm confidence, a sense of certainty rooted in his life experiences. He often narrated lessons from his childhood, not as stories of suffering, but as reminders of Allah's mercy. He spoke of Hajar's courage, the miracle of Zamzam, the reunion with his father, and the building of the Kaaba. These weren't tales of the past. They were living examples of divine intervention and destiny. His ability to turn every memory into a reminder of gratitude made him beloved by the people. As his influence grew, so did Makkah's reputation as a place of honesty, hospitality, and spiritual depth. As Prophet Isma'eel's family expanded, the Valley of Makkah transformed into a vibrant hub. His 12 sons became leaders in their own right, branching out into various regions of Arabia and creating tribes that carried his legacy far across the peninsula. The language spoken in the valley evolved into eloquent Arabic, a dialect polished through generations and eventually perfected among Isma'eel's descendants. It was a language destined for revelation, the language of the Quran centuries later. Isma'eel's influence extended beyond spiritual leadership. It shaped culture, identity, and the social fabric of Arabia. His household was a place of generosity. Travelers found rest there. The poor found comfort. And students found inspiration. Through him, Makkah became a home for diverse people, all drawn to the kindness of a prophet whose life embodied faith and resilience. The valley, once forgotten, had now become the center of a growing civilization. The Kaaba, central to Isma'eel's life, became more than a building. It became a symbol of unity. People from various lands came to visit it. Even long before Islam, it became the heart of Arabia's spiritual life. Prophet Isma'eel and his father had planted the seeds of monotheism deep into the land. Though tribes over time would drift into idol worship, the memory of the Kaaba's origins never disappeared. Elders passed on the stories to their children, ensuring that the knowledge of the sacred structure remained alive. Isma'eel's care for the Kaaba and the rituals associated with it preserved the core of true worship, keeping the light of Tawhid glowing even in eras of darkness. His influence remained deeply rooted in the land, like a seed that would later bloom into a global faith. His descendants would continue to protect the Kaaba for centuries, waiting unknowingly for the arrival of a prophet who would restore the religion to its pure form, Prophet Muhammad. Though Prophet Ibrahim did not live in Makkah permanently, his visits punctuated Isma'eel's life like chapters in a divine book. Each reunion brought new wisdom, new guidance, and new prophetic responsibilities. Their bond was unlike any other, forged by sacrifice, strengthened by missions, and illuminated by faith. Together, they performed rituals around the Kaaba, shaping practices that would become pillars of worship for future generations. The moments between father and son were profound. Prayers whispered together, conversations soaked in wisdom, and silent reflections shared under the vast Arabian sky. These visits reinforced Isma'eel's mission, aligning his leadership with divine purpose. They reminded him that he wasn't just guiding a tribe, he was nurturing a lineage chosen for greatness. And as years passed, Isma'eel honored this mission with unwavering dedication, ensuring that the valley remained a sanctuary for those who sought truth, peace, and connection with Allah. Prophet Isma'eel's compassion extended beyond his tribe. He welcomed strangers with open arms, offering them water and rest, a tradition still alive in Saudi Arabia today, where hospitality is considered a sacred duty. He taught his children to treat guests with honor, emphasizing that kindness was a form of worship. Though his life was shaped by hardship, he never allowed bitterness to settle in his heart. Instead, he embraced generosity as a core principle. He remembered the days when he and his mother had nothing but faith. He understood the pain of hunger, the fear of loneliness, and the uncertainty of survival. Because of this, he vowed that no visitor to Makkah would ever feel abandoned or unwelcome. His household became known for its warm atmosphere, where stories were exchanged, meals shared, and prayers offered. Through his kindness, Prophet Isma'eel turned Makkah into a city of compassion, a legacy that continues beautifully into the modern era. Prophet Isma'eel's marriage brought blessings not only to him, but to the entire community. His wife supported him in his mission, raised their children with love, and helped build a home filled with tranquility. She learned firsthand about the miracle of Zamzam and the resilience of a jar, adopting these lessons into her daily life. Their household became a reflection of gratitude and patience. Through their union, the lineage of Isma'eel expanded, weaving into the fabric of Arabian tribes. Their children learned archery, leadership, and faith. They accompanied their father on hunts, listened to him narrate stories of their ancestors, and joined him in caring for the Kaaba. Isma'eel taught them about obedience to Allah, using his own life as the ultimate example. Their home was a sanctuary of learning and spiritual growth. And from this family, a destiny would emerge, a destiny that would eventually produce a messenger who would bring the final revelation to humanity. Under Prophet Isma'eel's leadership, Makkah evolved into a major stop for trade caravans traveling between Yemen and the Levant. Merchants found safety in the valley, attracted by its reliable water source and the fairness of its people. The community thrived economically, culturally, and spiritually. Markets grew, tents multiplied, and the aroma of spices filled the air. Camels rested near the Zamzam, while travelers exchanged stories of distant lands. The valley that was once a barren wasteland had transformed completely, not by chance, but by divine blessing. Isma'eel's leadership played a crucial role in maintaining order and ensuring justice. He resolved disputes, protected travelers, and safeguarded the sanctity of the Kaaba. His influence stretched far beyond the boundaries of Makkah, shaping the traditions and values of tribes across Arabia. The city had become a symbol of stability, a safe haven in the heart of the desert. One of the most profound aspects of Prophet Isma'eel's character was his deep commitment to worship. He was consistent in prayer, always calling his people to maintain their connection with Allah. His voice echoed through the valley, reminding families of the blessings they enjoyed and the importance of gratitude. Prayer was not a ritual for him. It was a lifeline. And because of his example, generations after him continued to approach the Kaaba with humility and devotion. Even in times when the region drifted into idolatry, the rituals preserved by Isma'eel served as a memory of pure faith. People continued to perform circumambulation, continued to honor the sacred space, and continued to pass down the ancient stories. His teachings survived like embers, glowing quietly until the time would come for those embers to reignite into a blazing fire of truth through the final prophet. Prophet Isma'eel's final years were filled with wisdom. His face carried the signs of time, not withered by sorrow, but shaped by countless experiences. He had seen miracles, witnessed divine intervention, and lived through tests that revealed the depths of faith. In his old age, he continued to guide his people with gentleness. He taught his children and grandchildren to respect the sanctity of Makkah, reminding them constantly of its miraculous beginnings. He often revisited the Kaaba, running his hands along the stones he had once placed with his father. Every corner held a memory of sweat, tears, determination, and prayer. He knew his mission was nearly complete, yet he felt no fear. His heart was content, filled with gratitude for the life Allah had given him. His story, he understood, was not just his own. It was part of a chain that would lead to something far greater. When Prophet Isma'eel eventually passed away, the valley mourned deeply. His presence had been the soul of Makkah for decades. The people buried him near the Kaaba, honoring his lifetime of service and sacrifice. His sons and grandsons continued his legacy, spreading across Arabia and carrying his values with them. And though he was no longer physically present, the impact of his life continued to shape generations. His story became a part of oral tradition, told around campfires and passed down through families. His patience became a proverb. His obedience became a benchmark of faith. His miracles became landmarks that people could still see and touch. Zamzam, Safa, Marwa, the Kaaba. He left behind more than memories. He left behind a living legacy rooted in worship, perseverance, and divine purpose. Centuries later, the world would witness the fulfillment of Prophet Isma'eel's greatest legacy, the birth of Prophet Muhammad. From the same lineage that survived the desert, from the same family that built the Kaaba, came the final messenger whose teachings would transform humanity. The arrival of the prophet completed the divine story that began with a baby crying beside a dried-up water skin in an empty valley. Every moment of Isma'eel's life had been a stepping stone leading to this final chapter in prophetic history, and Islam would forever preserve his legacy, not as a distant figure, but as an integral part of its foundation. Muslims around the world today retrace his footsteps, drink from the spring that gushed beneath him, and remember his sacrifice during every Hajj and every prayer. His life became a living blueprint for faith under pressure, obedience under trial, and gratitude under hardship. Today, when pilgrims walk to the sacred landmarks of Makkah, they are not just performing rituals. They are reliving history. Every step between Safa and Marwa echoes Hajar's determination. Every sip of Zamzam is a reminder of Isma'eel's miracle. Every stone of the Kaaba carries the fingerprint of Ibrahim and his son. When pilgrims gather in Mina for Eid al-Adha, they commemorate the moment that defined obedience for all time. And when millions answer the call of Hajj, they are responding to Prophet Ibrahim's ancient proclamation. The legacy of Prophet Isma'eel is not confined to the past. It is written into the streets of modern-day Makkah, into the identity of millions, and into the spiritual rhythm of the Muslim world. His story is alive, felt, seen, and experienced every single day. The story of Prophet Isma'eel alayhi salam is not just a narrative. It is a testament to the power of faith. A baby left in a barren valley became the founder of a civilization. A mother's struggle became a global ritual. A father's obedience became a universal symbol. And a son's submission became a defining example of trust in Allah. Makkah, now a bustling city in Saudi Arabia visited by millions each year, stands as a living monument to his journey. The Kaaba, the heartbeat of the Islamic world, continues to welcome people from every country, every language, and every background. And at the core of this timeless story lies a message that transcends history, that when faith is strong, hardship becomes a path to greatness. Prophet Isma'eel's life is a reminder that every struggle carries a purpose, every trial carries a blessing, and every sacrifice carries a reward. His story will continue to echo for generations, inspiring hearts with its courage, beauty, and divine brilliance.